Aber June 6th, 1944, Berchtesgaden, Bavaria, 11:58 p.m. Thunder rolls across the mountains like distant artillery as a summer storm gathers over the Obersalzberg. Inside the thick stone walls of the Berghof, a single corridor glows dimly with yellow lamplight. Boots echo sharply along the floor, rushed, panicked, out of rhythm. Colonel Georg Pfeiffer grips a stack of decoded messages so tightly that the papers bend under his gloves. The ink is still wet from the signals office downstairs. Each sheet carries a location that tightens the knot in his chest. Omaha, Utah, Gold, Juneau, Sword, landing craft numbers too high, artillery too heavy, paratroopers everywhere. He stops outside the double doors of Hitler's study. A guard steps forward. "The Führer is resting," the guard warns. Pfeiffer swallows, rainwater dripping from his coat. He can't rest through this. He pushes the door open. Inside, the room is nearly dark. A storm wind rattles the tall windows. Maps cover an entire wall. Europe painted in red pins and blue markers. A single lamp burns over a large oak desk where Hitler sits wrapped in a gray military blanket, eyes half closed, a cup of herbal tea beside him. He opens one eye as Pfeiffer enters. This had better be important. Pfeiffer steps forward, hands trembling slightly as he offers the decoded messages. "Reports from Normandy, my Führer, urgent ones." Hitler takes the first page, skimming quickly. Then he reads it again and again. Outside, thunder cracks, sharp, violent, too close. "Multiple landings?" Hitler mutters. Pfeiffer nods. "5 beaches, sir. Confirmed. Thousands of troops. Airborne divisions already behind our lines." Hitler's jaw tightens. He stares down at the page as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less catastrophic. "It is the diversion," he says at last, waving the papers away. "The real landing will be at Calais." Pfeiffer hesitates, his mouth dries. "With respect, my Führer, the 7th Army is calling for armor immediately. They're reporting heavy contact." Hitler frowns, annoyed. "Of course they report heavy contact. The Allies want us to panic." Lightning explodes outside the window. For a moment the room flashes white. Maps, pins, pages frozen like a war photograph. Then the lights return to dim yellow. Hitler leans back, dismissing him with a flick of the hand. There is nothing to fear. The Atlantic Wall will hold. But Pfeiffer doesn't leave. "My Führer, Rommel isn't at his headquarters. He cannot move the reserves without your authorization." Hitler closes his eyes, irritated. "Rommel sees ghosts in every cloud. When the real attack comes at Calais, he will thank me for not squandering our strength." Pfeiffer gathers what courage he has left. He lays the next decoded message gently on the desk. "Sir, this one is from Carentan. It says the beachhead is widening." Hitler opens his eyes, then slowly reaches for the page. The handwriting is frantic, smudged, words crowded together. "Enemy armor sighted. Cannot hold. Requesting immediate reinforcements. Paratroopers behind our lines. Roads cut. Communications failing." Another thunderclap shakes the windows. Hitler reads the message again. His fingers tighten. The blanket slips slightly from his shoulders. This cannot be real. But Pfeiffer knows it is. General von Schlieben knows it is. The entire 7th Army knows it is. Only one man refuses to believe the scale of the invasion. At 12:37 a.m., another messenger bursts in. This one breathless, cap askew, rain running down the back of his collar. "My Führer," he says, voice cracking, "the British and Canadians are pushing past the beaches. Artillery strikes are overwhelming our positions. Field Marshal Rundstedt requests immediate release of Panzer Group West." Hitler stares at him, unmoving. Then he lifts his head, eyes filled with cold certainty. Calais is the main target. The messenger looks at Pfeiffer in desperation. Pfeiffer shakes his head ever so slightly. They are watching an empire misjudge its fate in real time. Outside, the storm builds. Rain hammers the glass like machine gun bursts. Lightning flickers across the Alps. Pfeiffer stands silent, listening to the storm drown the world. Hitler turns to the large map on the wall, the red pins marking German divisions, the blue pins marking Allied naval strength in the Channel. He steps forward, fingertips touching the coastline. "Fortress Europe is unbreakable," he whispers. Another decoded message slips from Pfeiffer's hand. This one reads, "Enemy numbers exceed estimates. Armor, infantry, naval gunfire overwhelming." Pfeiffer closes his eyes. Fortress Europe had already begun to crack, and the night was far from over. June 7th, 1944, 1:42 a.m., Berchtesgaden. The storm outside grows heavier, rain drumming against the tall windows in relentless sheets. In the hallway beyond Hitler's study, officers gather in a tight semicircle, whispering urgently, heads bending over fresh telegrams that crackle from the encrypted printers. Every few minutes, a thunderclap breaks over the mountains, and each time the men flinch as if it were artillery landing nearby. General Alfred Jodl appears at the corner of the corridor, moving with long, stiff strides. His uniform is immaculate, but his face is drawn and gray with exhaustion. He waves Colonel Pfeiffer inside again. "Bring all the new reports," Jodl murmurs under his breath. He must see them, all of them. Inside the study, Hitler stands now, not in anger, not in fury, in uncertainty. His fingers grip the edge of the large situation map as another decoded message lands on his desk. Pfeiffer clears his throat softly. "From Caen, sir." Hitler doesn't turn. He reads the message in silence. Then another and another. One by one, the words carve their way into him. Allied armor on the beach. Air superiority overwhelming. Heavy bombers targeting road networks. 7th Army requesting immediate reinforcement. Finally, he speaks, quietly. "This scale, how is it possible?" Jodl exchanges a grim glance with Pfeiffer. "We underestimated their capability, my Führer, their logistics, their coordination. It is beyond our expectations." Hitler shakes his head slowly, refusing the thought. "No, impossible. They would never attempt a landing without a feint at Calais. Everything our intelligence has gathered confirms." Pfeiffer steps forward with the next telegram, voice steady though his hands tremble. "Sir, this one includes aerial reconnaissance from Cherbourg. Allied shipping is not repositioning toward Calais. Their course remains fixed on Normandy." Hitler turns sharply. "Their main thrust must come at Calais." Jodl hesitates, then says quietly, "The weather favored a landing yesterday, not today. If they intended Calais, they would have struck already." A long silence. The storm snarls outside, lightning illuminating Hitler's profile, harsh, angular, unyielding. But his eyes, for the first time, they flicker with doubt. 1:58 a.m. Another runner arrives, soaked through, boots leaving small puddles on the polished wooden floor. "My Führer, Field Marshal Rundstedt insists again the Panzer divisions must move immediately. He says the Allies are establishing a continuous beachhead." Hitler rubs his temples, frustration crackling off him like static. "They are trying to draw us in. They want us to commit our armor early, to expose it to their bombers." Jodl steps forward, lowering his voice. "Every minute we delay, sir, they expand their foothold. If we do not act now, the wall will break." Hitler stares at the map again, but this time he is not looking at Normandy. He is looking at Calais. The place he is certain must be the true objective. The place he has fortified more heavily than any coastline in Europe. "The Allies would not risk everything on Normandy," Hitler mutters. "The Pas de Calais is the only logical target, the shortest channel crossing, the direct route to Germany." Pfeiffer answers in a soft, steady voice. "Logic is not always the strategy of someone who commands the largest naval force in human history, sir." The room freezes. Jodl's eyes widen at Pfeiffer's audacity. Hitler turns, slowly, toward the colonel. But instead of rage, there is something colder in his expression. Then where is the deception? Pfeiffer swallows. "Sir, what if there is no deception?" Thunder rips across the sky. 02:26 a.m. A new signal arrives from La Mole, inside Army Group B's sector. Jodl reads it aloud, voice tight. "Enemy landing craft estimate revised. Numbers exceed 4,000 vessels. Airborne presence massive. Multiple bridges captured. Hitler sinks into his chair. The blanket slips from his shoulders entirely. For the first time, the myth cracks. The myth of the impassable wall, the unbreakable cliffs, the steel barrier that would stop any invasion, cold. Fortress Europe. It had been a reassuring vision, a symbol, a promise, but it had never been tested until now, and now it was failing. Hitler looks up. "Send orders to Army Group B," he whispers. "All available units are to counterattack at once. No retreat." Pfeiffer doesn't move. "Sir, it will take hours to reposition armor from Pas de Calais. Perhaps too many hours." Hitler's eyes narrow. "Then they must move faster." Jodl folds his arms behind his back. "The situation in Normandy is deteriorating by the minute, my Führer. If the Allies secure those beaches by dawn, we may never push them back into the sea." Hitler looks toward the stormy window, not seeing the lightning, not seeing the rain. He is seeing something else. Armies landing, divisions advancing. A legendary defense cracking, a continent shifting under his feet. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, almost hollow. "Have we miscalculated?" Pfeiffer bows his head. Jodl closes his eyes. Outside, the storm begins to ease, but only outside. Inside the Berghof, the collapse of Fortress Europe has already begun. June 7th, 1944. 03:12 a.m. Berchtesgaden. The storm is breaking. The thunder fades into the distant peaks, leaving only the soft hiss of rain sliding down the tall windows of the Berghof. But inside Hitler's study, the atmosphere is darker, heavier, sharper than any thundercloud outside. 3 new messengers stand near the doorway, soaked and trembling as their decoded reports are stacked on the table. No one sits anymore. No one relaxes. The air hums with the tension of a nation discovering, minute by minute, that an empire can crack in a single night. Hitler paces slowly across the room, boots thudding on the wooden floorboards. His uniform hangs loose around his shoulders. The once crisp lines sag slightly, as if the weight of the incoming reports were pulling the fabric downward. Jodl clears his throat. "My Führer, another update from Caen." Hitler stops walking, but doesn't turn around. Jodl unfolds the message with deliberate care. "Enemy armor pushing inland. Lots of it. Panzer Lehr's reconnaissance suggests the Allies have formed at least 2 solid corridors. They're widening the beachhead." Pfeiffer steps forward with a map. "Sir, if this continues, they will link up across the entire front by midday." Hitler exhales sharply. "Midday? Impossible." Pfeiffer speaks carefully. "The landings began almost 24 hours ago, sir. Our response has been fragmented." A dangerous silence follows. Then Hitler whispers, almost to himself, "Where is Rommel?" General Jodl answers quietly, "On his way back from Germany. The weather report predicted storms. He never expected a landing today." Hitler slams his palm onto the edge of the table. The teacup rattles. Papers jump. "Storms," he hisses. "And yet the Allies crossed the Channel. Thousands of ships. They defied the weather, and we—" He stops, because a new voice joins the conversation. Soft, uncertain. "Sir, perhaps they planned for the weather." "It is Pfeiffer." Hitler turns slowly toward him. "Planned?" Pfeiffer swallows. "Their meteorologists may have predicted the break in the storm. They have better equipment, more ships, more access to Atlantic weather patterns." Jodl nods reluctantly. "They might have known something we didn't." Hitler's eyes widen, not in rage, but in the dawning horror of a realization. The Allies were not lucky. They were prepared, meticulously prepared. So 3:38 a.m. A fresh courier bursts into the room, rainwater dripping from his helmet. "My Führer, reports from the 21st Panzer Division. Enemy paratroopers have secured multiple villages. Communication lines are collapsing across the Orne River sector." Jodl pinches the bridge of his nose. "If they take Caen, they will control the main route inland. Hitler rubs his temples, trying to push back the flood of contradictions and failures. But our intelligence is obsolete, Jodl interrupts softly but firmly. The room freezes. Even the rain seems to pause. Hitler stares at him. Explain. Jodl takes a deep breath. We believed they would not risk a full invasion without complete dominance, but they have achieved it. Their bombers destroyed our rail lines weeks ago. Their fighters sweep the sky. Their landing craft are endless. Their deception campaign misled us completely. Hitler's jaw tightens. Fortress Europe was designed to stop them. Pfeiffer sets down the map with trembling hands. Sir, the wall is strong only where it is manned. Normandy was never reinforced like Calais. We built our defenses where we expected the blow, not where it actually fell. Hitler closes his eyes. The truth settles like stone in his chest. They built a fortress around the wrong door. 04:02 a.m. Another report arrives, this one from the 7th Army's command bunker near St. Lo. Jodl reads it aloud, voice low. Enemy reinforcements landing continuously. Tanks, artillery, infantry. Their supply lines unbroken, cannot contain. Request immediate armored support or withdrawal. Hitler whispers. Withdrawal? Jodl shakes his head. They cannot withdraw. There is no line behind them. They are collapsing. Hitler's breathing grows uneven. How many Allies landed? Pfeiffer answers, estimates exceed 150,000 so far, more every hour. Hitler feels the room tilt for a moment. The number crushes the air from his lungs. 150,000, an entire army, more soldiers than many nations even had, and more arriving behind them. He moves toward the window, staring out at the thinning storm clouds drifting over the Alps. All this time, he murmurs, all these months. The lightning is gone, the sky is quiet, but inside the Berghof, a tempest churns harder than ever. Fortress Europe, he whispers, has it ever truly existed? No one answers, because the truth is already written across every map, every report, every desperate radio call. It was a myth, a promise, a wall made of hope, not steel. And on this night, the myth shatters. June 7th, 1944, 05:11 a.m., Berchtesgaden. Dawn creeps over the mountains like a pale, uncertain truth. The storm has passed, leaving mist clinging to the pines, drifting between peaks like the breath of something vast and exhausted. Inside the Berghof, however, no one has slept. No one speaks above a whisper. No one dares loosen the knot in their throat. Another radio operator sprints into the study, boots slick with rainwater. My Führer, emergency dispatch from Army Group B. Hitler turns sharply. The message is placed into his hands. He reads slowly, anxiously, each word deepening the lines around his eyes. Enemy has secured multiple landing zones, infantry pushing inland, armor advancing steadily, beachhead firmly established. Jodl leans over his shoulder. They've linked their British and Canadian sectors. The Americans are pushing toward Carentan. Sir, this is a unified front now. Hitler exhales, barely a sound. One night of stubborn disbelief. And the beaches had transformed from chaos to coordination. He reaches for the next page, a hand-drawn sketch map, copied from a field report. Allied units spreading like ink across the Normandy coastline, forming a shape every German officer feared, a continuous lodgment, the first phase of a true invasion army. Hitler steps back as if the map itself has struck him. 05:24 a.m., the door opens again. Another figure enters, General Wilhelm Keitel, still fastening his belt, hair unkempt, his face pale from haste. My Führer, I came as soon as I received word. What is the latest? Jodl hands him a stack of reports. Keitel looks down, scanning rapidly. His eyes widen. This indicates a massive assault. This is beyond a raid or a diversion. Hitler glares. It is still possible they target Calais. Keitel almost speaks, then stops himself. He chooses his words carefully. Sir, if Normandy is a feint, it is the largest in military history. The sentence hangs in the room, heavy as stone. 05:43 a.m. A messenger from the Reich Chancellery Communication Center arrives with a flimsy sheet of teleprinter paper. Pfeiffer reads aloud. Coastal batteries overwhelmed. Naval bombardment continues. Enemy resupply uninterrupted. Hitler whips around. Uninterrupted? How? Where are our Luftwaffe bombers? Jodl answers with a pained expression. Grounded or destroyed, sir. The skies are theirs. The enemy fighters are attacking our airfields the moment anything takes off. Keitel clears his throat. The RAF and USAAF have total air superiority over Normandy, perhaps over all of France. The words strike Hitler like a slap. There had been rumors, reports, warnings, but nothing like this. Hitler whispers, "Our fighters were supposed to throw them back into the sea." Keitel lowers his eyes. "They never reached the sea, sir. They were intercepted before they could cross the Seine." 06:02 a.m. A final, devastating message arrives. The room goes silent as Pfeiffer unfolds it. It is from General Erich Marx, the commander tasked with defending Normandy. He has written it himself in hurried strokes. Enemy forces too numerous, their materiel overwhelming. Their landings continue without pause. We cannot contain them. Hitler sinks into his chair as if the air has left his body. The myth has collapsed, but now the consequences unfold. Jodl moves beside the table, laying out the situation maps once more. "Sir, if the Allies hold Normandy, they will roll our flank, seize the ports, and bring in full army groups. Once they break out, nothing stands between them and the Seine." Pfeiffer adds quietly, "This will become a second front, the very thing we feared since 1941. Hitler stares into the maps, but he no longer seems to see them. His voice lowers until it is barely audible. "We prepared for every possibility and except the one that came." Keitel tries to rally the room. "We must still act, my Führer. The panzers—" Hitler cuts him off. "The panzers will be bombed before they arrive." No one argues, because it is true. Every armored convoy that moved north that night had suffered under Allied air power, shredded on the roads, burned in the fields, trapped by destroyed bridges. Every report is a warning. Every warning is a prophecy. And the prophecy is unfolding faster than anyone imagined. 06:27 a.m. Light breaks over the Alps, soft gold on snow-tipped peaks. A calm, beautiful dawn. Inside the Berghof, that dawning light feels cruel. Hitler stands slowly, one hand braced against the table. So, the invasion has begun. No one answers. His voice breaks into a harsh whisper. "And they did not come to test us." He looks up, eyes distant. "They came to end us." A long silence follows. Not the silence of discipline, not the silence of fear, the silence of understanding. The silence of a leader realizing that the war he believed he could control has shifted beyond his grasp, that the walls he trusted were illusions, and that the end began east of Caen, west of Carentan, south of the Channel, in places he had dismissed an hour too long. Fortress Europe was never stone, it was sand. By dawn, the tide had already started to rise. June 7th, 1944. 07:12 a.m., Berchtesgaden. The first rays of sunlight spill across the balconies of the Berghof, illuminating the damp pines and rolling fog that crawls between the mountain tops. Birds chirp softly outside, oblivious to the fact that inside the sprawling alpine estate, the most consequential night of the war has hollowed out an entire empire. Hitler stands rigidly before the massive window, arms folded behind his back, staring at the distant valley but seeing nothing. His reflection in the glass looks older than it did hours ago. Chin lowered, lips pressed tightly, a deep crease carved between his brows. Behind him, the room is alive with motion. Officers shuffle papers, radios hum with new signals, pens scratch hastily on maps. Yet every movement feels muted, restrained, as though the air itself fears to disturb the fragile moment stretching across the morning light. Keitel breaks the silence first. "My Führer, shall we confirm the counterattack orders?" Hitler doesn't turn. Pfeiffer glances at Jodl, silently urging him to try. Jodl steps forward. His voice is steady, carefully measured. "Sir, the divisions from Calais will require 9 to 12 hours to reposition, assuming the roads remain intact. And the enemy air raids." Hitler lifts one hand sharply. "I know about the air raids." He closes his eyes. A long, slow breath escapes him. The sound of a man trying to maintain control while the ground shifts under his boots. Why did they not come to Calais?" he mutters, almost to himself. Every calculation, every model, every briefing pointed there. Pfeiffer steps forward, swallowing. "Sir, they studied our thinking. They struck where we were weakest, not where we expected strength. It was," he hesitates, "a masterful deception." Hitler's reflection stiffens in the window pane. The truth has been spoken aloud. 07:34 a.m. A new radio operator enters with fresh intercepts. His uniform is damp, his boots muddy from running across the courtyard. He hands the papers to Jodl, who reads quickly, his expression darkening. "From Omaha sector," Jodl announces. "Additional reinforcements have landed, armor and anti-tank guns. They are establishing what appears to be a second line inland." Keitel shakes his head slowly. "They're preparing for a breakout." Hitler turns from the window at last. His gaze moves across the room, from Keitel to Jodl to Pfeiffer, searching for any sign, any scrap of uncertainty he can cling to. He finds none. "And the Atlantic Wall?" he asks quietly. Pfeiffer answers just as softly. "It was breached in hours, sir." Hitler's hands curl into fists. He whispers, "Hours? A wall built for years? Defeated in hours?" Jodl replies with a heavy voice, "The wall was strong in places, sir, but it could not cover the entire coastline, and the air war softened our defenses long before the first landing craft touched the sand." Hitler lowers himself into the nearest chair. For the first time, his movements are slow, not calculated, not dramatic, but exhausted. The silence stretches. 07:56 a.m. A final courier arrives from the Paris Military Command. His uniform is soaked, his hands shaking slightly as he salutes. "My Führer, message from General von Kluge." Hitler motions weakly. "Read it." The courier clears his throat. "If reserves do not arrive, we cannot prevent the Allies from establishing full operational depth. The enemy controls the sky. The beaches are lost. We cannot retake them." The room goes still. Keitel lowers his head. Pfeiffer closes his eyes. Even the radios seem to quiet themselves, as if acknowledging the weight of the words. Hitler stares at the floorboards. "Lost?" he whispers. "We have not even begun the counterattack." Jodl answers gently. "Sir, the counterattack is no longer possible. The Allies landed faster than we reacted, and they brought more men than the wall could hold." Hitler sits motionless, lips parted slightly. The realization, the final realization, settles with an almost physical force. The greatest invasion in history had begun, and he had failed to see it for what it was. 08:12 a.m. The sun climbs the sky outside, bright and indifferent. Inside, Hitler slowly rises from his chair. He places both hands on the map table, leaning heavily. His voice is low, barely audible. "Everything we built, everything we prepared, depended on stopping them at the beaches." No one speaks. He lifts his head, eyes hollow. Fortress Europe is gone. No one corrects him, no one comforts him, no one dares. Because each man in the room knows the truth. Once the Allies held Normandy, nothing would prevent them from pushing inland, breaking France and turning the tide of the war forever. The Berghof feels smaller now. The world outside feels larger, and history, unstoppable, merciless, moves on. Hitler whispers, almost to the mountains themselves, "We were wrong." The officers stand in heavy silence as the sunlight floods the room. Not a victorious light, not a hopeful one, a revealing one. It marks the moment when the myth of invincibility collapses. and the reality of defeat begins its slow, relentless march across Europe.